What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Fielding Shredder, and this video is going to be all about the hyperdrive obstacles. So I'm going to break all the obstacles down, talk about my experience with them, what we saw firsthand, and explain a little bit on what the mechanics were and some of the design elements behind all of these crazy, insane obstacles you guys saw on hyperdrive. Before I start though, I want to just thank everybody who's been ordering stuff from my website. I really appreciate it. You may or may not know that I'm on my way prepping the car for SEMA. I'm going to get to drive in the Hoonigan demo. And something I haven't announced yet, these Wild Child shirts are now available. So check them out. You guys can get yourself one if you want to take a look at them. So yeah, check that out if you guys want a Wild Child shirt of your own. Definitely check it out on the website. Okay, so I'm just going to go in order of all the different obstacles that I saw, and I'm trying to do them in order that I saw them on course. Some of them, popped up in different episodes and different races, so a little bit of the order may not be perfect, but we'll just jump right into it. So the very first one is the targets. Now the targets were intended to be hit behind the leading edge of the front door. So you may have remembered in one of the episodes, Omar threw his door open to hit them. I actually have to take some credit. I taught him that move. I was trying to train him on how to do a donut in that Mercedes with all the computers and stuff coming on. And he just wasn't able to pull it off. So I told him, the rules state that you have to hit it behind the leading edge of the door. Didn't say anything about not being able to open your door. So he did that in the show and you guys saw that. But yeah, you were intended to hit it behind the leading edge of the door because they wanted you to slide into the obstacle. So it was about a 2-foot square foam structure that had a aluminum arm that kind of came off, and that was braced to that droid that we call it. It was like a robot looking thing, and that was stainless steel, extremely heavy. Do not want to hit that thing because it would do a lot of damage to the car. A couple of the cars hit them, as you might have seen. I even tagged one just by a little bit and got lucky there. But yeah, it was made of dense foam, and it was maybe about 3.5, 4 inches thick. 2-foot square, on a diamond position, and it was filled with these rubber balls. This is the rubberized balls that were inside, and they light up whenever they're hit. This one's probably out of batteries by now. It's been about a year since we filmed. But I think this might have been like a dog toy or something like that. Just a kid's toy. It's soft, it's pliable, a little bit squishy, but this was a fantastic, light up obstacle element that was really easy to replace and was something that gave a nice visual aspect to the show. So you hit it, these little rubber balls came flying out, and you had to tag it with the rear of the car. So you saw these targets on various parts of the course. Some of them were what were called a bump target, which we'll talk about in just a bit, but that means you bump it with the nose or tail of the vehicle, and then most of them were intended to be hit on the side of the rear of the vehicle. So either side, left or right, and those popped up in different elements throughout the course. Now, the next obstacle that I was approached with was the Supernova. This was really exciting to go through because I've actually practiced this quite a bit at Rally Ready where I work. And so what this is a reverse 180. Some people call it a J-turn. Some people call it a Rockford turn. I believe a guy whose last name was Rockford probably invented it or something like that. But basically, you're going backwards. You have to whip the car 180 and continue going forwards back out. So, you had to go up and bump a target and then put it in reverse, back up, and you were forced to go through these narrow obstacles. So you had light bars on both sides. Then the light bars opened up to about a 50-foot radius around. That was where you do the Rockford turn maneuver. So you have to whip the car around, put it back in gear, and get going. Whether you put it in first or second was up to you and your car and your drivetrain and what speed you attacked in. And then you had to go back out through another narrow path. Now, in the beginning episodes, we had to do just one Rockford. Near the end, we had to do a double Rockford. So you come in, bump a bump target, reverse 180, hit another bump target, another reverse 180, and then back out and continuing on course. So really exciting feature. I really enjoyed that obstacle. It was one of the more fun ones for me. And later on as well, that 50-foot radius actually tightened up. So they tightened that up to kind of make it a little bit more challenging and a little bit more difficult and potentially, more of a chance of failure, which obviously looks great on camera. From there, we went on to the Lightbox. Now, this was kind of like a Simon Says. It had 4 boxes. I can't tell you the exact dimension of them. I don't know, maybe about 2 cars or so long. But basically, you go in and you would be staged or stopped at the start line, and you would start watching the lights flash. So in the beginning stages, it was just 2 light boxes that would turn green. And your job was to go into them in order and do a 540, which would be 1.5 rotations in a donut inside each box. So if you would see the front left and then the right, back box light up in that order, then you would have to go in that order, go do a 540, go out and do the next one. Now, as the races got more and more difficult and we advanced on, they started to throw in different colors. They started to change the timing a little bit. And something that actually wasn't really well explained in the show is that, much like Simon Says, you can't do it out of order, but more importantly, you had to wait to see the entire pattern before you would start. Now, they did tell us that once you start or break that start line, which you're allowed to do at any time, then the light pattern would stop. So then you'd be left guessing on the actual pattern. And in one of these episodes, they didn't actually show, but I jumped the line and went a little bit early and just had to guess on that third one. So I saw the first green box, I saw the second green box, and then I was guessing the third one has to be one of these other 2. So I'm gonna save the extra 5 or whatever seconds it would be while they're flashing blue and purple and red before the next green box popped up. So that was a pretty cool element. It took a little bit of mental math, a little bit of, figuring out the slowest or the quickest path from each box to the other. And then, minimizing your drifting in between to try and pick up speed. I just drifted the whole thing basically, but that was a really fun obstacle. Wasn't too difficult, but it was more about just kind of the anxiety of getting the obstacles right and in the right order. The next obstacle we went to was walk on water. Now this one was probably one of the most difficult for my car. This was a massive square of water. It was 50,000 gallons. Inside was a 9-foot wide raised race path through the walk on water. Now it was designed to where you couldn't really see that. So in the first episodes they had a reflector maybe every 20 feet or so in the middle of that raised path. And then as the episodes went on, they took away every other reflector until at the very end, I think there were maybe 4 or 5 total throughout the entire path. Now you saw that the path kind of snakes through. I've got a couple behind the scenes photos that show what it's like, without the water in it. So the raised path was about 7 inches tall with a slight grade on the outside, and the water itself was overall 9 inches tall. So if you dip off, you're in 9 inches of water, which really will destroy almost any car. And when you're on the path, it was only maybe about 2 inches of water. So the intention was that you go through, it was up to you on how fast or slow to go through, and you try and get through, as quick as you can without ingesting too much water. Now you saw on the first race, I took on a ton of water. I ended up blowing out 2 coil packs in my engine, and it was a difficulty to get to the final, the finish line. But I was able to pull it off. My car held true for me, and she made it to the end. And then I had some repairs to do where I ended up cutting up some floor mats to kind of block some of that water slosh into the engine bay. And I also cut up a trash can and put it over the intake filter, which ended up working out great. A little bit of backyard engineering and some duct tape and some zip ties, and that worked out really well. So overall, that was one of the maybe not so difficult obstacles, but definitely one of the ones that would kill cars. And on top of, the water getting in the engine bay, it also was hitting the hot turbo manifold and really steaming up the windshield. So it would really blind me coming out of the walk on water every single time I went through, and made the obstacles after that extremely difficult because I just couldn't see anything. Now let's talk about the leveler. Oh my gosh, the stupid leveler. I hated that thing. It was probably the most difficult for me personally. Now what this was a 6-story giant bridge, and this bridge has been used in a commercial before. Showed a truck towing a big giant rig up it, and then as it slams down, the tried to show off its brakes. So the idea was that it showed off its towing power and its braking power up and down this moving bridge. Well, for us, they took it a step further and we had to level it. So that's why it was called the leveler. In the beginning, we just drove up it and let the weight of the vehicle bring the end of the bridge down, and then we drove off. But in the later episodes you saw that we had to actually level or balance it out. And that was definitely very difficult. We were trying to rely on our spotter who was watching a monitor, but later we found out he had about a 1 second delay. So when he was telling me to stop, I should have already stopped. When he's telling me to pull forward or go back, I should have been moving the car, earlier than that. So it was kind of up to me to kind of feel out the equilibrium, which honestly I wasn't very good at. And it was really difficult because we couldn't see anything. As you drive up the leveler at night, complete black sky. That's all you got. Nothing else in front of you, no reference points. The windscreen was fogged up half the time from leaving walk on water, and it was extremely difficult to balance the leveler out. We had to hold it balanced for 10 seconds, and then the lights would go green and we'd pull it off. I actually only completed it one time, which they didn't show, unfortunately. It was in episode 5, but every other time I was not able to conquer the leveler, and that really was frustrating. For me, it wasn't much of a driving skill. It was much more of just a balancing skill, but it was great to level the playing field and show what some drivers are capable of when others like me are not. So the next obstacle we'll talk about is the rail slide. Now this one was pretty cool, I thought. It was 2 basically steel I-beams that were built out of the concrete. There was a bit of a grade, so you would drive up this grade and then the road would fall away as the rails would come out and away from you. Now, we were able to tell the production crew how wide we wanted the rails because every car is a little different. Some people were planning to slide along the control arm. Some people had built little brackets or things to kind of help hold them on the rail. Other people wanted just the outside edge of the tires, or sorry, the inside edge of the tires to kind of hold them in. It was entirely up to the competitor, but we told them exactly how wide we wanted those rails adjusted, and from there it was up to us to complete the maneuver. Now, they did give us an opportunity, if we wanted to, for safety, to practice this one time. I actually opted not to try and attempt this thing when I knew that it was going to be maybe a one and done kind of thing. So basically, whenever I was going to go off of it, I wanted cameras rolling. I knew that it was going to blow apart the bumper and potentially break some suspension or something else. And I really wanted to make sure that, cameras were rolling and I was going to do this live, first try. So when you saw me go off it the first time, that was absolutely the first time I went off of it. And it was pretty cool. I definitely felt the car clang down. I think I approached it a little bit too quick. You saw my car kind of get air and the ground drop away from the back tires as I kind of slam on this rail. And then I just let out a big woohoo and slid down that thing, and it was really fun. Now, another thing about it is they actually greased the rail. So, they wanted to make sure that no one got stuck on the rail, and they didn't know exactly how fast each competitor was going to approach this rail. And, the grade on it was not extremely steep. A couple of the competitors got out their protractors and pushed their glasses up and got real nerdy about measuring it and stuff. But overall, it was just something that, I felt like if I went fast enough, there's no way I could get stuck on it. However, those globs of grease actually ended up getting, stuck on my car. And then when I pulled off the rail, I hit the gas, and one of them I know got under one of the tires because it got greasy as heck. I was not able to take off, and that was a whole new element of danger and surprise that we had to be prepared for. All right, next obstacle we're going to talk about is the Gauntlet. This one was really cool. It was a menacing looking, swinging cars with targets falling below. There were different elements for each different race. Sometimes we just had to hit all 3 of them. Other times we had to go through kind of a gap or kind of like a goalpost where you had to go through it. And other times we had to hit the targets with the back of the car, so behind that leading edge. And then other times we had to miss some of the targets. So depending on what episode it was a little bit of a mix-up, but I thought that was a really fun obstacle to go through, and I was able to nail it the first time through, which felt really great. It was definitely more exciting and scary looking than I think it was. The cars weren't quite hanging low enough to crash our car or take our head off, but it definitely was quite impressive on film. Speaking of impressive, the forced perspective. This one was really kind of a visually stunning and a little bit anxiety-inducing obstacle. So this one was a row of shipping containers that were tightening down to what they call a forced perspective. And then at the end, there were slats of wood that were spaced, depending on the width of your car, exactly 1 inch wider than the vehicle's mirrors. So your job was to kind of get through as quick as you could while still, not hitting a mirror because you were penalized. And each slat of wood had a certain space or width, so each one was worth a different amount of seconds or penalties. And I actually caught the mirror on one of them, and you saw it kind of get smashed up. And this is the mirror here actually, which I'll be putting up on my website for sale. I'm going to make a nice little display out of it, and I think that'll be really cool. But yeah, so you were trying not to clip it. I got through it close. I did get a slight penalty on that, and that's all right. A couple seconds, no big deal. But overall, that was really more of a visually, appealing and really exciting one to go as fast as we could through there and see, what kind of precision driving you could pull off if you knew the lines or the limits of the car. Some of the cars had power folding mirrors, which was fantastic for them because they got to cheat a little bit and push a button and then the mirrors would fold in. The 240SX doesn't really have those. There are some available in Japan for you nerds that are going to correct me in the comments down below. But I don't have them on my car, and I didn't have time to install them. And oh well, didn't have the chance to pull off the folding power mirror trick. Next, we'll talk about the water cannon. This one was really pretty cool to watch. This was actually a prop from Pirates of the Caribbean. And it was, on the Black Pearl where they were shooting these massive waterfalls over the boat. I don't know, I didn't really watch that movie, but they got their hands on it. The production crew implemented it onto the course, and it was something that was really exciting and visually stunning. This shot 1,400 gallons in the air in 2 seconds, and 1,400 gallons of water is 12,000 pounds of water. So you were trying not to let it hit your car, all at once. You guys saw that Karina had a major problem whenever it hit her windshield. That was not good. That was definitely not intended. I actually stalled out my car on accident whenever I was launching at the line for the water cannon, and I ended up not having to take that thing on the roof. But overall, pretty cool obstacle, definitely very visually stunning, and just one more element that we had to avoid on course. So up next is the Manji Alley. I loved this obstacle. This was simply targets that were in a staggered row, and it gave you the opportunity to really show off some drifting skills, going left to right in transition, tagging all these Manji targets. Really fun one, probably my most fun or desirable obstacle throughout the entire course. That and the Supernova were definitely my favorites. I really enjoyed those. The Needle was another one that was really exciting. That was a shipping container with a very slight grade or a ramp that you kind of pulled up and were able to drive through. Now you saw a couple of these on course as well as in the head-to-head. On course, they were configured in kind of a triangle, so we had to go through them, do a 180 turnaround, go through the next one, or a 180 or kind of a 270 degree turnaround, and go through them as quick as we can. My front bumper bottomed out just a little bit on them, depending on how fast I went. But overall, it was kind of a test of the driver's ability to read the limits of the vehicle, maintain some precision driving and control throughout, and then also, showcase their skills doing a 270 out of one and then back into the next one. Now in the head-to-head, they were set up on a straightaway. So depending on if you were on the inside or outside lane, you would have quite a run-up to go through that. I actually went through that shipping container against Jordan in the fight for my life at 72 miles an hour. I was in third gear. I was cooking through that thing. I went through it as quick as I could. I definitely caught a lot of air. It was really exciting and a lot of fun to go through that thing. And overall, tore up my car just a little bit, but it was definitely worth it. Each driver was not forced to go through at a certain speed. It was up to you what kind of risk you wanted to take. We saw Farouk actually broke his car jumping through that like I did. He bottomed out his gearbox, I think, and broke the case, maybe on the diff or the gearbox, I don't remember, but he had a major drivetrain failure after that, which was unfortunate. Each driver had an opportunity to go through them, and they were really, really fun. So I loved the Thread the Needle, which was the shipping container jump. All right, so that pretty much concludes all of the different obstacles we went through. I think I got them all. I don't think I forgot any. If I did forget some, leave in the comments down below, and I'll do a little follow-up video explaining those. All the course designers did a really fantastic job of coming up with these elements, these course elements that we got to drive through and just throwing everything at us that we could maybe pull off or maybe not. And it was really, really fun to work with. So I want to thank everyone at the production crew that was able to come up with all these crazy stunts and give us the opportunity to drive them. It was really, really fun. and I appreciate you guys' effort. It was not lost on me. I had a blast doing it. I cannot wait to try and go back. If there's a season 2, I'm going to try and do it. I hope there is. It's up to you guys to share the show and talk about it, because Netflix said if the show's a huge success, they'll do another one, but they spent a ton of money on it, so I know that it needs to be a worldwide phenomenon for them to do another one. Alright, I'm going to finish the video here. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate all the new subscribers to my channel, and you guys sharing the video and talking about it and commenting below. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Let me know what you want to see on the next video, and we'll shoot it. Thanks.